the coronavirus pandemic. It's the reason you were able to watch Croods 2 on opening day in your bathtub. And now there's actually some good pandemic news for a change, people. Cases in the US are dropping steeply for the first time ever. And the Biden administration is purchasing 200 million more vaccine doses and plans to have the entire country vaccinated by the end of summer, which is so exciting. It means I'll be vaccinated just in time for apple picking. Partying at like the coolest orchards. Clubs. I go to the clubs, you know, I don't pick apples. And while there are still problems distributing the vaccine, some medical providers are getting creative to make sure that not a single dose goes to waste.
A snowstorm that snarled traffic in Oregon ended up being a blessing in disguise for drivers who ended up being in the right place at the right time. That is because also stranded in that very same storm was a group of healthcare workers who had been administering vaccines. The workers had 6 doses with them and were worried the doses would go bad before they made it back. So they started giving out vaccines to others. Among those who were vaccinated was a sheriff's office employee who had been trying to get to the vaccine site when the storm hit.
Okay, now that's a pretty dope story. Imagine being caught in a storm and lucking into a COVID vaccine. That is officially the best thing to happen on a road in Oregon. Normally when you get stuck out there, you just die of dysentery. Then you got to restart. Now, some of the drivers they asked chose not to get vaccinated. And honestly, I get that. If some stranger in a van offered to give me a shot, I would also say no. I learned that lesson when I was a kid. Yeah, you can only fool me so many times, Mr. Barry. You know, my uncle. But I do think that there's an important lesson here for everyone. Whenever there's a blizzard, get in your car and drive around until you stumble on someone with extra vaccines. And that, my friends, is Trevor's safety tip of the day. Moving on to travel news. If you're already planning your first post-pandemic vacation, maybe you've been thinking about a flight to Paris, to visit the museums, or a trip to New York to see Broadway, or a trip to Narnia because you don't know that that's not a real place. Well, for some real adventure seekers, they're planning a way more unique getaway.
And 3 very rich men will make up the first crew of private citizens to blast off to the International Space Station. It will cost each of them $55 million to fly on a SpaceX rocket and spend 8 days on the orbiting lab next year. The men were introduced yesterday. They are 70-year-old real estate entrepreneur Larry Connor of Ohio. He will be the second oldest person to fly in space. The chief executive of a Canadian investment firm, Mark Patty, will also be part of the crew, as will Israeli businessman Eitan Stiba. They will be led by a former NASA astronaut.
Wow, $55 million for an 8-day vacation. And that doesn't even count the $7 million they had to pay for a checked bag. But it does sound amazing, part of me wishes I could be up there with them, looking down at the earth at the moment they realize that they spent $55 million to have to catch their poop before it floats away. Another question I have is, have these people never watched movies in space? Something always goes wrong. And when it does, I don't know if it's going to help to have a real estate entrepreneur on board.
Oh my God, there's a killer alien headed straight towards us.
Let's raise its rent by 7%, which is higher than the standard 5. That'll show it.
We're so dead.
And finally, remember 3 weeks ago when a mob of Trump supporters tried to overthrow the government? Remember that? Wow. Oh, it's so random, right? Well, anyway, investigators are now examining if parts of the attack were planned in advance by the Proud Boys. And we don't know yet how investigators are getting their information, but now we're learning that at least in the past, one of the proudest boys hasn't been too proud to squeal to the cops.
We have some new details to share with you about the leader of the right-wing group, the Proud Boys. According to court documents obtained by Reuters, Enrique Tarrio was an informant for both the FBI and also local police in Miami. Now, it was part of a plea deal that he made after a 2012 arrest for fraud. According to court transcripts, a former prosecutor, the 36-year-old helped with several cases ranging from drugs to human trafficking. You may recall Tarrio was arrested in the days that led up to that Capitol riot.
Tarrio denied working with police and said, quote, "I don't recall any of this."
Are you kidding me right now? The founder of the Proud Boys is a snitch? Man, fascist bigots just aren't as trustworthy as they used to be. This story's insane, people. These dudes just stormed the Capitol, and now they're finding out that their leader has got the FBI on speed dial? Man, the next Proud Boys meeting is going to be hella awkward.
Item 1 on the agenda, snitches get stitches. Item 2, where are we hosting our virtual Christmas party this year, guys? Doug's mom said we can't use their virtual basement.
I also love how he's like, I don't recall any of this. My dude, being an FBI informant isn't the kind of thing you'd forget. It's like being asked if you're a virgin. No one's like, am I? Well, let me think. I hang out with that one lady a lot. Wait, no, that was my mom, so that doesn't count. Although, to be fair to this guy, I get why someone in a hate group like the Proud Boys would want to work with the FBI. He probably sought them out like, hey, I heard your crew try to kill Martin Luther King Jr. Game recognized game.